run the ball the best. So let's see if they can be a little bit more physical on this drive.
Delay of game. Offense.
That is a completely avoidable penalty. The quarterback just went into brain lock and lost track of the play clock.
Let's go.
They'll go to the ground. This junior making his presence felt and making the stop after a short gain. So now it's 2nd and long. The play action fake. And he can't make the connection on his first attempt. Let's see if he settles down.
And you've seen this formula work at all levels of football. You pressure the quarterback, his numbers start to drop. He's not as efficient. Nice job by the defense.
Now facing a 3rd and long. Finds his tight end. They bring him down at the 45-yard line, and this defense rises up on 3rd down. FIU will line up to punt. This will be the 2nd time they've had to kick it away. Blocked those heels at the 10 and didn't go backwards. He makes the fair catch there. The Buckeyes roll that offense back out there. They didn't get much done the last time they had it, and to punt it away from deep in their own territory, hoping this drive will be more productive. Quick release by the QB. They stop him almost immediately. Short gain there, and still a little ground to cover to pick up the first. Motion from the wide receiver. To the ground with the back. And maybe he'll get back to the line of scrimmage, but no more than that. 4 punts already, and they've got to convert here to avoid a 5th. To the air, it's Sayin. Just a short pass to the tight end. They make the stop, and he'll have enough yardage for a 1st down. The Buckeyes come to the line with a new set of downs.
That's a 1st down from the offense.
He'll pull it on the read. Looks as if we have an injury on that last play, and we'll take a break to check him out. Try to make up for some of that lost ground on 2nd down.
Here we go.
Give to the running back. Squirts across the 30 to the 32, a pickup of 5. The Buckeyes come to the line on 3rd and short, hoping to keep the drive alive. They'll try to pick up the first through the air. Sets up the screen. There he goes. Coming through with that 3rd down conversion, and they'll mark it at the 43. And the Buckeyes have this offense rolling. They'll give it to the back. Creating some space, getting just enough good blocking, and they've got it up to the 47-yard line. Solid pickup of 4 on 1st down. It's 2nd and 6. Stopped in the backfield. He's going to lose 3 yards on the play. Already 2 for 2 on 3rd down, but this time they'll need 9 to convert. From the gun, wants to pass. He's got his man across the middle. And boy, is he close to that 1st down, maybe just a couple of inches short.
One of the things I love about this defense is they just have such great awareness, and they're always communicating. They understood the down and distance. They knew exactly what they needed to do to make the tackle to force the punt. That is so well done.
They bring him down, but not before he's able to pick up the 1st down. They needed less than a yard, didn't hesitate, didn't think about the field goal. Probably a little long for that, but they get the 1st down.
And now that you've got it in a fresh set of downs, look at where they are in the field. They're sort of in that fringe area. There are a lot of coaches that like to take shots at this specific juncture of the field. Let's see what the offense does here.
After the productive 1st down play, it's 2nd and 6. Got it in the middle. It's Smith. Gets him on the ground at the 28, but not before a big 10-yard pickup.
Love the play call on the RPO. That time the defender bites on the run fake, and that opens up the window for the slant coming in behind it. Nice job.
Looking to throw, it's Sayin. Intercepted, big play, stops the drive. Taking it the other way. The 20. Touchdown, Panthers. The defense does the work itself with a pick six. Look, I know it's only the second quarter, but we're starting to see a pretty significant gap develop between these two teams right now.
No doubt. When your defense is scoring, your offense is scoring, good things happening for your ball club. This defense on point, reading their scouting report, making big plays.
Set for the point after.
Is on for the extra point.
And the extra point extends the lead to 16. And let's check in with Kevin Connors in the studio. Kevin?
All right, guys, a little update on what else is happening in college football this weekend. Appalachian State is ahead in this one, and we've seen this program pull off some incredible wins over the years, but they're not there yet. They're up by 11 over Charlotte. Just another week of college football where we've come to expect the unexpected. Fellas?
Thanks for the update on that one, Kevin. Let us know when it goes final. From inside the 10-yard line, he'll bring it back. He was looking for more running room, but none to be found as he stopped at the 23. Here comes the Ohio State offense onto the field. This possession will be a test after squandering that long drive, throwing a pick six, Jesse.
You're right, Reese. Well, I think this is really dependent, too, on the leaders in this huddle right now to step up and help this offense get back on pace here on this drive.
Yeah, and this defense is frothing at the mouth. They're excited. They're jacked up. They just made a big play. They got all the momentum, so they're ready to hunt.
Knocked down behind the line. Boy, he powered through one tackler, but there were more there to greet him.
And this offense on first down, man, they go backwards. And they built a deficit, and they've been sluggish. And they just need something to get going, to get started, because they've kind of looked out of sorts and out of rhythm this whole game.
The Buckeyes have put themselves in dire straits after that last play. It's 2nd and a mile. A little screen to the running back. It's a seam wide open. He'll step out of bounds right at the 35-yard line, and maybe they've got something cooking. That was just a perfectly choreographed screen. The line got out on time. The running back had a wall in front of it.
And I think the quarterback did a really good job of selling pass and then kind of dodging the pass rush, getting it to the running back, and then let him do the rest. You got him in space, he'll pick up yards in a hurry.
Looking to throw, it's Sayin. They go to the wide receiver screen. Let's talk just for a second about Ohio State. What does the top 5 ranking mean for week 1? Optimism, hope, maybe, David, an excuse for the other team's fans to rush the field if they knock you off?
Well, it means, first of all, absolutely nothing, because preseason rankings don't show up anywhere at the end of the season, but it means this team is talented. It means they're thought of highly. They got to go earn it, Jesse, and it starts today, but the talent obviously is all over the field.
The number in the preseason rankings means absolutely nothing. You saw Florida State recently start in the top 10. They won 2 games by the end of the year, so you've got to go earn it. Yes, you're talented. Yes, a lot of eyeballs are going to be watching, and people are really excited. You've got an opportunity to do things really, really that are special this season, but you've got to earn it on the field.
The Buckeyes come to the line on 3rd and short, looking to keep the drive moving. They'll go to the air on 3rd and short. Working on the right. A huge play there, and they finally get him out of bounds at the 37. Man down on the play as the officials take a break to let him be checked out. And the Buckeyes are marching down the field. Looking to throw on first down. And the defense picks up a sack, getting the quarterback down at the 44.
They got more sacks than a grocery store. Goodness gracious, time and time again, getting to the quarterback, getting him on the ground. This defense having their way.
That last sack got them behind the sticks. It's 2nd and long here. Looking for a man. It's Sayin. And the pressure is coming in, and they get him again.
Well, I think one of the biggest reasons why this team is finding themselves in a hole here in the first half is this has been a sack party. They can't keep the defense off of their quarterback. They haven't been able to get the ball deep down the field, throwing it with the consistency they want because they can't keep their quarterback standing up straight.
On 3rd and long, he's going to have to turn one loose downfield. They stop him short of the sticks, and it'll be 4th down. The Buckeyes decide to punt it away. That leg is staying loose, already the 5th kick of the night. He'll get away another punt. He's been really active today, and no doubt he's going to earn his varsity letter. FIU gets it back, and the Panthers will send the offense back onto the field. They missed an opportunity to extend this lead the last time they had it, Jesse.
Yeah, they got to be able to regain that momentum, right? Go back to what was working earlier on in this one. And, David, to me, that starts with being the more physical team.
No, I definitely agree. Being the more physical team, but understanding the situation of the game. You're still winning. You got the football back. Now put a nice drive together and execute.
Delay of game. Offense.
The offense couldn't get the snap off in time, and it'll cost them. They weren't able to get that one off. It'll be a delay of game.
Delay of game. Offense.
Offense took a little bit too much time at the line there. From the shotgun now, here's an inside give. Good pickup on the ground there. Give him 5 to the 16-yard line. Plenty of distance between them and the sticks here on 2nd down. Off the play fake. And here's a fumble way behind the line. The offense somehow fell on it, and they'll retain possession.
Great job by the defense forcing the fumble, but a bad, unfortunate bounce, and the offense pounces back on it.
Now a lot of work to do to move the chains, keep this drive alive after that earlier sack. On 3rd and long, doesn't need to take the check down. Unloads to the wideout. Can't hang on to the ball. He had it right in his chest, and it'll be 4th down. FIU will line up to punt. 3 and out, they got stuck in reverse. They hope the punt can bail them out. We're at the 2-minute timeout, and these guys really need to build a little momentum to cut into this lead before halftime. Plenty of time to work, not any time to waste as they take over here in the final 2 minutes of the half. Dropping back, it's Sayin. Finds the tight end. They flexed out that tight end a little bit, and you know the tight end's always open.
Always open. Quarterback's best friend. And this guy's a problem, Reese. He's a matchup problem because he's too big for DBs to cover, and he's too fast for linebackers to cover. He's showing you his athleticism there.
Just 2 too much of a rush, and down goes the quarterback just behind the midfield stripe at the 49. On 3rd and long, you'll have to turn it loose deep. And here comes the pressure, and there he goes down again.
And this offense, man, they're going to have to figure something out. And this is already getting out of hand, but they're going to have to protect their quarterback. They're going to have to start throwing the football and having some success, because right now they got a bagel up on the scoreboard.
The Buckeyes send out the punt unit. Doesn't say much for your drive when you're looking forward to the punt. And they'll get him down after the return at the 27-yard line. First play of this drive comes from the 27. Off the play fake on 1st down. He's got the tight end. Oh, he's getting ahead of steam. They finally get him on the ground, but he's got an explosive play for the 1st down.
And that's why play action is going to be big in this game. You saw how it just freeze the second level of that defense just for a second and allowed the tight end to work himself vertically down the field. But how about this guy after the catch, right? So hard to bring down. What a weapon.
He wants to change this route. Trying play action. Quarterback moving out of the pocket. And they'll stop him just short of the 1st down, just inches away from moving the sticks. And the Panthers have their whole playbook open here on 2nd and inches. They knock him down, but he's got enough to get it across the line and pick up the 1st down. Running out of time here in the 1st half, they're going to have to be efficient to put some points on the board before the break. Fires to the big fella. They'll use a timeout right before halftime. Maybe time for 1 or 2 more plays. The Panthers can play this 2nd down a lot of ways with just a few yards to go. Wants to throw. They'll have to be efficient against the clock. Pass falls incomplete, and there are still 3 seconds left.
Hey, man, if you're going to force incompletions when the QB's thrown to the tight end, you better be physical. Nice job with the hit, forcing that incompletion.
1 more snap coming before halftime. Let's go. Looking to throw, it's Jenkins. He fires one deep over the middle. Grabs it inside the 10. Works his way to the 4-yard line, and they'll have it 1st and goal. That's the end of the 2nd quarter. That means it's time to join Kevin in our halftime update.
Gentlemen, what else is new? A really raucous environment there in Miami. And it's been a dynamite 1st half, leading to a one-sided score right now. It's not over, but I think both sides know this is on the verge of a blowout. That opposing defense is inside its locker room right now wondering 2 things. What just happened, and what do we do now to try to make this respectable? And with that, let's send it back to the guys at Ricardo Silva Stadium.
All right, Kevin, about ready to get things cranked back up here. They're lined up and ready to kick off this 2nd half. He'll bring it back from inside his 5. Not a lot of space to be found. Good hustle by the coverage team, and they stop him at the 21. Guys, FIU ready to go back to work on offense. They opened this 3rd quarter on top, and they built the lead on the strength of that running game.
And they...
Oh, a lot of space. That's the kind of play that can really get you going as they get it out to the 36. That's a way to give yourself some breathing room. Now the 2nd play of the drive from the 36. Just sort of a relentless run, getting everything that was available to him, and they'll mark him down at the 40. Solid pickup of 4 on first down. It's 2nd and 6. Trying to burn this defensive back. Oh, he dropped it. That deep ball was right on the money. You just have to make that catch. They've got some work to do on this 3rd and long from the 40. Wants to throw. It's Jenkins. And they'll miss the connection here on 3rd down.
Well, this offense did a lot of good things there in the first half. Wouldn't surprise me if they punt this one away after that incompletion on 3rd down. They do have the lead. I think you've got to put some trust in your defense here to not give up any points and get you the ball back.
Okay, here comes the Ohio State offense onto the field. We'll see if they can be a little more productive this time around. A 3-and-out the last time they had the ball. They'll ride the running back and leave it with him. Defense is there to greet him again, and they are ready, and he has found nowhere to run tonight. 2nd down, they'll go to the air. A strike downfield. And he's brought down after a nice gain. It's 1st and 10 for this offense from the 42. They think they can create space here with the run to the right. He's stopped in the backfield again, and this just hasn't been his night. It's been more like a nightmare. And the Buckeyes with a long way to go after the loss on the last play. Wide receiver comes in motion. Back to pass. Got his man downfield, and he's knocked down.
Well, this offense knew coming into this game they wanted to try to attack the middle of the field in the passing game, and they're able to execute the end route there.
And this offense just can't afford not to get the 1st down here. Already trailing big, and the clock is not their friend. Quarterback on the keeper. That just never had a chance as they controlled the middle of the field and stopped him in the backfield on 3rd down.
That's got to hurt if you're the offense, because you're thinking with this quarterback and his size and his athleticism, that's going to be an easy 1st down pickup on the option play. But how about the physicality up front by this defense, stuffing him at the line of scrimmage?
Hunt is on its way. Makes the catch, and now looking for just a little bit of daylight. They'll put that return to a stop at the 33, but the offense set up in pretty good field position. They'll start this drive at the 33-yard line. The give to the back. Nice move to pick up yardage. Good job running tough and behind his pads as he gets up to the 38-yard line. Halfway there on 1st down, it's 2nd and 5. Now the play fake. Here's a heat. Quickly to the tight end. And it's a 1st down. They'll mark it at the 44. Here's this offense with a fresh set of downs. Off play action on 1st down. Pressure coming. And the quarterback runs out of time, and down he goes at the 38. And the Panthers trying to find their way forward after the big loss on the last play. The give to the back. Continuing to turn and move it forward, and they're closing in on midfield. It's down at the 48. It'll be 3rd and long. Right back to the well. Past the 1st down marker and still running. Lots of green grass as he gets it to the 31.
This shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. If you've got the lead in the 3rd quarter and you want to keep it, you got to bleed the clock. Best way to do that, run the football. And you're now seeing this offense call these run plays back to back. They are trying to be physical. They're trying to stay on the field.
And he does a really nice job finding open space and making a good gain before the stop is made. They'll run play action. Moves away as he feels pressure. And he's all bottled up, and now it's worse. The ball's loose. Oh, the fumble, and the defense got it.
Fumbles are great when you force them, and you're always thinking about as a defensive player. But, man, when the weather conditions start to come down, it starts to rain, and you know that ball's a little bit slick, and you know more runs are coming, you really try to get to that football. Nice job getting the football out, falling on top of it, forcing the turnover.
And the shot to the middle of the field falls to the turf.
Well, it's a nice job by the quarterback getting the ball out of his hands quickly on that RPO. He saw something he liked, just not on the same page with his receiver.
Fires to the big fella. Looks as if we have an injury on that last play, and we'll take a break to check him out. Somebody needs to make a play here. It's 3rd and long from the 26. From the gun, wants to pass. Throws to the wideout. Can't make the catch on 3rd down, and the rarest of drops for this guy. The Buckeyes will try to pin them back with the punt. Just needs a crack to get a return. Returns like that are why you don't settle for the fair catch if you don't have to. Picks up just a little bit of yards to help out the O. First snap of this drive comes from their own 44. Give to the back. And it took the defense a bit to get a handle on him. A little slippery with all those juke moves.
Coaches always harp about staying ahead of the chains, and when you can run with that type of efficiency on 1st down, man, you are doing just that.
Hauled down, but they'll move the sticks as he picks up the 1st down. Here's this offense with a fresh set of downs. Dropping back, it's Jenkins. That's caught. It's Dawson. They are on the move down to the 32, and they pick up another 1st down. FIU comes out with a fresh set of downs. Off the play fake on 1st down, wants to throw. Pulls it in, it's Payne. There he goes! They're able to keep him out of the end zone. He'll be stopped at the 2 after the big play in the passing game.
Well, how about the offense setting that play up? We've seen earlier in the game a couple of shorter throws. They're just trying to suck those safeties closer to the line of scrimmage, anticipating that they would get an opportunity to take a shot. They called the perfect play at the perfect time right there.
Great job by the defense. Everybody firing off the ball, hitting their guys, holding their gaps, running to the football, nowhere to go.
They give him the rock again on 2nd and goal. Touchdown, Panthers. And the pummeling has started.
And it's been more of the same in the second half for this offense, doing whatever they wanted. What a start to the season, man. This is exactly what you draw up. Everything they drew up in the offseason has worked in game 1, and that's why they are dominating this football game.
So that scoring drive took only 6 plays and finished the deal with the short touchdown run from the 2. On the move from inside his 5. He was looking for some running room, but not much to be found as he stopped at the 18. Buckeyes roll that offense back out there. Their drive chart is starting to look a little monotonous. Punt, 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 David.
And their defense is starting to get a little frustrated, too. They just keep putting me back on the field, possession after possession. Jesse, this offense needs to get their heads out of there, you-know-whats.
The punter's on the sideline with the oxygen mask right now. He's been playing so much. He's not used to this. This offense, they just got to stay on the field. They've got to put a drive together and get some balance going, running and throwing the ball.
Got his man. He's got enough for the 1st down. They'll spot it at the 37. Here's this offense with a fresh set of downs. Motion from the wideout. To the air on 1st down. Rush coming in hot, and they got him at the 29. Oh, man, they've already lost one quarterback today. Now the backup comes in and has to take a shot.
Man, I might think about protecting my QB a little better. I already lost one. Now your second guy gets hit, and you got to keep this guy healthy. You got to keep him upright. You got to protect your quarterback, man.
Off play action. And this defense has maxed out this pressure. Another sack.
And this offensive line's got to do a better job, man. You got to protect your quarterback. Listen, this to start to get something together here in this second half.
On 3rd and long, he'll need to push it downfield. And it slips through his fingers, incomplete. That would have been a huge gain if he could have squeezed it. The Buckeyes will line up to punt it away. That nifty return sets up the offense and negates some of the yardage on the punt. The Florida International offense is back on the field. Here's the handoff. They'll pick up 4, 2nd and 6 coming.
And I kind of like how the running back didn't mess around. Like, just get downhill when you see an opening. A lot of times they close so fast, man. Be decisive, stick your foot in the ground, pick up 3 to 4, and we are not going to complain.
He's brought down, but it'll be enough for a first down. Here's this offense with a fresh set of downs. Use the play fake, now to throw. Fires to the wideout. Makes the grab. And he takes it all the way down to the 10-yard line. An explosive play for this offense. FIU mounting a threat in the red zone. The play action fake. Fires to the tight end. That completion will take it inside the 4, and the offense is threatening. It'll be 2nd down, and remember, they can pick up a first without scoring. He pushes it forward all the way to the 2-yard line. Tight quarters deep in the red zone, but they can pick up a first down without scoring. 3rd down. They'll try to power their way ahead. He gets it oh so close to the first down marker, but I think he's going to be a touch short.
3rd and 2, trying to be physical, trying to win the battle up front. Almost there, Palmer, just short, 4th and inches.
Yeah, and he was so disappointed he didn't pick up that first. He's looking over to the sidelines right now, asking for the ball again here on 4th.
An unforced error there. They don't get the snap off in time.
Delay of game. Offense.
So frustrating to see an offense lose track of the play clock and pick up a penalty like that.
Let's go now. Let's go, fellas. Once again, let's go.
Looks as if they didn't get it off in time. It'll be a delay of game.
Delay of game. Offense.
The quarterback just lost track of the play clock, didn't get the snap off quickly enough. And for the 2nd time tonight, they'll trot out the field goal kicker. Absolutely center cut. And now the lead is extended a little further.
And you want a touchdown and you want to be aggressive, but man, right down the middle, that obviously gives me some confidence down the road that I can trust this guy.
That lead just keeps getting fatter, and this kickoff team doing a little running. From inside the 15, here comes the return. Able to find enough room to get it out across the 25. He's brought down at the 26. Here comes the Ohio State offense onto the field. They really didn't move the ball at all the last time they had it, hoping for better fortune this time around. Looking downfield on 1st down. The screen, he can go! And they pick up just a few on that completion. Plenty of work to do here on 2nd and long. Wants to go up top. Oh, they're after him! Quarterback feeling the pressure, and down he goes at the 22. Man down on the play as the officials take a break to let him be checked out. Now a lot of work to do to move the chains, keep this drive alive after that earlier sack. grabbed over the middle. It's Tate. They finally get him on the ground, and this junior turning in a big play after the catch.
Gain of 22. And that's a first down for the offense.
We reach the break. It's FIU with the lead. And they are starting to pull away as we come to the end of the third quarter. Let's take a look at how we got here. One more quarter to go, and it looks as if we are ready to play. They go back to work with the first down in the final period of this one. Wants to go up top on first down. Here's the pressure. He'll pull it down. He's brought down, but not before he turned that into a positive play and picked up a few on the run.
It's just so nice to have a QB under center. Nowadays in football, you can trust these guys. You put so much on their plate, and you tell them, go get positive yards when it's there. And a lot of these guys are such great athletes, they do it with ease.
And the Buckeyes get him past the sticks.
Well, they only needed 1 yard, so no mystery there. Turn around, hand it off, and he finds a way to get it.
The Buckeyes look to keep this drive humming.
Pace, 27, jump.
They'll move the wide receiver. Off the play fake on first down to throw. Always a welcome play for the defense as they get a sack at the 47.
And I tell you what, this defense, they've heard all about how great this quarterback is. They came in today with a mission, with a purpose. They've been flying around, harassing him, and making life so hard on this offense.
The Buckeyes now with a long way to go to pick up the first down. Second down, he'll throw it. Here comes the heat. Nowhere close on that one as he got drilled trying to deliver the football, and now they face third down. Trying to pick up a first down. Wide receiver going in motion. Off the play fake. He's going to throw deep right side. And they can't hook up on the big play, and that brings up a fourth down.
You got to give this defense tons of credit because they have been lights out. They have not allowed a single point so far, and a big reason why is how well they're playing on the back end. They came at this game knowing the offense was going to try to throw the football, but they're not giving anything up, and another great job that time in coverage.
On fourth down, he'll try to toss it. Oh, he loves to fire downfield. Makes the grab, plenty for the first down. And not much of a fourth down gamble when it's that much of a sure thing. An easy conversion for this offense. And the Buckeyes will have it 1st and 10.
Here we go, here we go.
Leaves it with the back. We've seen a ton of this tonight. They just keep giving him the ball, and he keeps running into brick walls. Not much running room again. Second down coming up on this red zone opportunity.
Ready. Ready, go.
Looking to fire. Rushes on him. They get enough rush, and it pays off. The sack at the 20.
And they get him again. This has not been the day we expected. This young man, we expect great things. Like, he is one of the better players in college football. You think he'd come out, put on a show, but this defense has had his number all.
And this defense is bringing the heat. Another sack.
Man, you can tell this offense is frustrated, giving up another sack, and they're out of sync, out of sorts. They're just not used to this. This trigger man's usually good. This offense is usually good. They've had a day they would love to forget.
Lets it fly deep downfield. Touchdown, Buckeyes! Snagged in the end zone to give them 6.
And finally, man, this offense, they have struggled all day. They've been shut out all game. Finally put a drive together, got some points on the board, got some good mojo. Maybe they can take this into next week. I know it's been a bad day, but sometimes these type of things can carry over.
Lining up for the PAT.
For the extra point.
Oh, and the extra point is blocked. Precise, relentless execution on that 13-play scoring drive. They're coming out to tee it up for the kickoff, and that last score was a real buzzkill for this crowd. And he takes this from inside the 5. Drills him with a stiff arm. And he did a good job bobbing and weaving and finding a little bit of running room on that return. They'll christen this drive from the 28-yard line. Back to pass, it's Jenkins. Catch in the middle, it's Dawson. And good coverage by the defense, just a short gain. And here comes the offense on second down. Back to pass. He lofts it high and deep down the left side. And they wanted it all on that incomplete pass. Instead, they're looking at third down. Now this offense tries to figure out a way to move the chains after the second down misfire. Oh, they really could have used that catch there. Physical pass defense. It brings up a fourth down. FIU will line up to punt. This will be the 5th kick of the night. Fields the punt and tries to work it the other way. Working his way on the return up to the 40-yard line before he stopped. Okay, here comes the Ohio State offense onto the field. A very disappointing performance for the #1 team in the country. There will be a new team atop the rankings when they come out next.
Well, a lot of things haven't gone right for him. You saw an incompletion right there. It's been offense, it's been defense. They just haven't been able to click and get into a rhythm here. And now they're playing catch-up, and you know they're going to be throwing at each and every play here in the fourth quarter.
And he dropped it, just didn't look the thing all the way in. Here they come, facing third and long from the 40. On the move, it's Peoples. They stop him after a short game, probably just wanted to mitigate the losses with fourth down coming. Looks as if we have an injury on that last play, and we'll take a break to check him out. Coach has no choice here. The offense has to stay on the field, down multiple possessions this late. Fourth down attempt coming. Under fire! And they get to him and sack the quarterback, and they'll stop the drive on down.
And I tell you what, you see this a lot. Fourth down, I'm putting pressure on the quarterback. The defense brings the blitz. They have no answer. Nice job being aggressive on a big fourth down.
He's loose. Nice pickup on the ground there. They'll move the sticks with the first down.
Well, that's called paying off good field position. You've got the lead here late in the game. You've got the ball back. You're on your opponent's side of the 50, and on your very first play, you break off a long run. This defense right now is playing on their heels late.
They'll give it to him again. He is going nowhere. Stop at the line of scrimmage. Got stuffed on first down. It's 2nd and 10. Trying play action. Got his man on the right. They'll spot the ball at the 12 after that completion. And they got the completion, but still looking at a third down. Looking to throw. Quarterback floating away from pressure. Touchdown, FIU! And the beatdown has ensued.
Well, I think this home environment was just too much for their opponents to handle. There's been unbelievable noise and energy. The crowd showed up today, but how about the playmaking on the field? These guys have got dudes all over the field, and this kind of win week 1 sends a statement and reverberates all across college football.
Now they'll line up for what they hope is automatic. And the extra point is good, and got to be happy about that after missing a pair. Let's go to the studio now and check in with Kevin Connors. Kevin, what do you got?
Guys, let's take a look at what's happening in a great college football matchup. Rock chalk. Kansas is lighting up the scoreboard right now thanks to a dazzling offensive display.
And the returner could find no daylight. He goes down. They'll start this drive going to the air. Safe completion on the screen. And that one looked great on the grease board, but when they blow it up like that, the defense is going to win every time. The Buckeyes have put themselves in dire straits after that last play. It's 2nd and a mile. The RPO, fire complete to the left. Oh, speeding down the left side. Oh, he's got some space. Touchdown, Ohio State. He got loose, and it was lights out after that. When that receiver got free, it was all over.
And it's so nice to have a receiver like this as a quarterback because you pad my stats. I like those long touchdown passes where I just threw it really short and he did the rest of the work.
Quick timeout by the defense there, trying to make sure everyone has the same call. They'll try to tack one more on their score. Hit that one with some aggression for the point after. This offense prides itself on going after you, and they did with that long touchdown pass to finish off a 2-play drive.
Yeah, and a great job by the receiving team. When you see the football kick, man, you got to be smart how fast it's coming, if I'm ready to catch it, if it needs to go to the next wave. Nice job being organized, seeing it, and executing well.
On the run, it's Owens. And look, this guy has some serious moves, and he tried all of them and still didn't get loose. Halfway there on 1st down, it's 2nd and 5. Handoff to the single running back. That is a big win for this defense as they were right there as soon as he got the ball. They've got to come up with a big play on this 3rd and long. Pocket breaking down. Pulls it in. It's Burke. Working their way closer and closer. A 3rd down conversion, and they've got it at the 26. The Panthers have it with a 1st and 10. Use the play fake. Now to throw. A shot toward the end zone. And that one is right on target if his target was the first row.
And it's nice to be a QB in this spot. He's had a great day, man. Like, great day. They've built a huge lead now. Incompletion's okay. Just take care of the football. Don't throw that thing to the other team.
Quickly out to the tight end. He's brought down quickly. Minimal gain there. Still a bit short of the 1st down. Already in chip shot field goal range at the 21, but this 3rd and short, they're still thinking touchdown. Zings it complete to the right. And he's down after making the catch, but did not reach the line to gain. 4th down and inches, and you go read any book you want to, any analytical measure, and it will tell you, go for it. Picks up enough to give them 1st and 10 from the 13. And the Panthers are moving quickly down the field. To the air, it's Jenkins. Got his man. They'll get it down to the 10-yard line on that completion. Going to work in the red zone, they can't pick up the 1st down without getting it into the end zone. He'll be hauled down just inside the 10 at the 9 as they're trying to turn this into a score. Really need to pick up this conversion and avoid having to settle for the field goal. In the gun, looking to throw on 3rd down. Touchdown, Florida International! And the punishment has been extended.
Salt enter wound, right? Late in the 4th quarter, you can run the football, run this game out. No, sir. I'm going to continue to pad my stats, find my receiver out wide, and get me another touchdown.
kick is up and good and put one more on the lead. Man down on the play as the officials take a break to let him be checked out. Kickoff unit has been busy as they have built a big lead and they're trying to hold on to it. From inside the 15, chance for a good return. He was looking for more running room, but none to be found as he stopped at the 23. This drive opens up at the 23-yard line. Leaves it with the back. He's going to lose a yard on that one.
That's such a great physical play by the defense because this is one of the bigger, more physical running backs you'll see in the country, and we're used to seeing him push the pile the other direction. Not that time. It's the big guys up front on defense getting penetration, and they're sending him back for a tackle for loss.
And that's exactly what you want to do as a defense, man. You want to get penetration and not let that tank get downhill. Because when he gets downhill at that weight and that size, it could be a problem for your defense. Get him before he gets started.
On third down, he drops to throw. And the pressure gets there. And down he goes at the 18. The Buckeyes will bring the punt team onto the field. 3 and out and not much choice but to get rid of the ball. Makes the catch near the 50. Can they catch it? Found a little running room on that one. Picked up some nice blocks before he's run out of bounds. FIU gets it back and the Panthers will send the offense back onto the field. Back to throw, it's Jenkins. They're in command of this game. Now let's see if they try to rub a little salt in the wound or happy with getting the W.
Yeah, and listen, this makes the post-game handshake fun sometimes. If you do choose to rub a little salt in it and keep chucking and keep scoring, I'm here for it, Jesse. Like, your job is to score points. It's my job to stop it.
Rush coming in hot, and they got him at the 29. Looks as if we have an injury on that last play, and we'll take a break to check him out. Now a lot of work to do to move the chains, keep this drive alive after that earlier sack. Unloads to the wideout. And they can't make the play on third down.
And the offense comes up short on third down, but I tell you what, they've still had a good day. There's so many positives to point to. I'll be interested to see if they go for it here on fourth down. They don't have to. They got the lead. This offense has put together a nice day, shown a variety of all kinds of things. Now it's just about how they want to finish.
Let's see what they have dialed up as this drive starts from the 29-yard line. He'll do it himself. And the defense holds firm. No pickup at all on that play.
Phenomenal job by the defense that time, shutting down the option play. They knew they were going to see this in this game, and all week long in practice, they really focused on this assignment football, making sure the dive, the quarterback, the pitch, all taken away. Nowhere to go with the football that time offensively. The defense coming up with a huge negative play.
On third and long, he has to throw for it. They get enough rush, and it pays off. The sack at the 20. Down in the fourth quarter, it's too late for empty possessions. They'll go for it on fourth down. He'll try to throw and pick up the first down. And it's going to be batted down. They'll turn it over on downs.
And I get it. That's for pride's sake. This game's over. Like, I know you're down and you try to mount drives, and sometimes you even try to get young guys in the game at this point. But now you're just fighting for pride and just letting them try to.
And they're going to score again. Yet another touchdown as they just add to their total. The extra point, they push the lead out a little further. That's taking advantage of a golden opportunity set up with great field position, and they struck quickly for the touchdown. They're set to kick it off, and this crowd now ready to get behind them. And a special teams miscue as the kickoff goes out of bounds.
Free kick out of bounds. Kicking team.
Don't know if the defense will appreciate having to defend a short field from the start after that penalty. First play of the drive, wants to throw. He wants a big play here late. And that one's incomplete. Worth taking a shot there, but couldn't hook up.
And this defense has put a game together. Like, it is hard to put all the facets of defense together. Run defense, pass defense. They've been so good, man. Dialed in. You could tell they were ready. They were fast. They were physical. They dominated this football game, too.
Put it right on him. Sweet play. Good pickup, and they'll move the chains with the first down. Last completion moved the sticks, and let's see if they try it again. From the gun, the running back looking for room. He stopped dead in his tracks again. No running room to be found. They keep trying and have had very little success. They got nothing on the last play. It's 2nd and 10. The give out of the gun. Not much running room there thanks to this senior defender.
Well, I think the offense at this point now, they're just trying to limit the damage. They want to get out of here and move on. Turn the page to the next game because things just have not been going their way, throwing or running the football.
It's picked off, and they ruin the drive with a turnover. Couldn't find a ton of room on that return, but that small change, they take over at the 43.
Nice job by this defense. That might be the exclamation point. Fourth quarter, I got a lead. You bring on the nickel defense. You know they're passing the football for plays just like that to make the INT and almost put this one away.
Good field position here as they start this drive from their 43. Wants to throw on first down off the play fake. And the quarterback will take a sack back at the 36.
A loss of 7 yards on the play. 2nd down coming up.
It's really the most common type of upset we see every year. The home field advantage is so big, and especially when you have a ranked team come to town, they love to play spoiler.
Yes, and what needed to happen happened in this football game. Something good to happen early to get the belief and to get this crowd involved. And when the crowd gets involved, Jesse, it changes the game, and I think it had a lot to do with the outcome today.
I agree. I'll tell you, regardless whether this team is ranked or unranked, when their home crowd is like they were today, they're tough to beat, period. And you know this crowd and these fans, they're going to be celebrating this win for days and days to come.
Thanks so much for spending some time with us. For David Pollack and Jesse Palmer, I'm Reese Davis, and this has been another presentation of EA Sports College Football.